It's U of L Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
And welcome to UofL Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville. This is a show about all the good stuff going on at the University of Louisville and on the campuses of UofL. On the show today, why is non-medical use of prescription drugs much higher among women who are on probation and parole? It's not as simple an answer as you might think. A UofL researcher will be here to tell us why. And what is big data? Are our teachers trained to prepare students in how to deal with big data and computer science? UofL is launching a major new effort to help move teachers and students into the world of e-commerce, and we will talk about that as well. But first, we don't talk about athletics too much on this show. We usually focus on academics and research and the students at the University of Louisville. But UofL does have more than 400 student organizations on campus, including club sports. And one of those club teams is the UofL men's volleyball team, which just won a national championship in St. Louis. Sam Bibelhauser, Anthony Campisano, and Tom Sarver are UofL students and members of that team. They're sitting right in front of me here. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Club volleyball. Who knew?
Yeah, who knew?
Does anybody, do your friends even know that the UofL has a club volleyball team?
They do now.
They do now.
For sure.
All right. Well, tell us about the national championship and how long the club volleyball team has been in existence, and tell us a little bit about it.
Well, so I'll start with setting the stage a little bit. The
Okay.
club team's actually only been around for 3 years. When I was a sophomore, I knew a bunch of these guys already and kind of was like, okay, let's get the team started. And did a lot of the legwork with help, of course, from a lot of different people, and built the club into what it is now, like from the ground to a national championship in 3 years. And some context about NCVF too, the National Collegiate Volleyball Federation. They're a nonprofit organization. They've been around for like 20 years or so. And they're the only national level organization that promotes club volleyball. And so the national championships, every year they pair with USA Volleyball, which is like the USA Volleyball Authority, you know,
Like the Olympics
per
and
the
stuff
name.
like that,
Yeah. And so every year they pair with USA Volleyball to put on the national championships, which is what we won in St. Louis this past weekend. It has 456 teams across 10 different divisions. And so that's the stage that we played on.
Okay. That's Sam, by the way, Sam Bibelhauser. And U of L played in which division? One of you guys, Tom?
So there's 5 different divisions. There's D1, D2, and D3. D1 has D1 single A, double A, and triple A.
Oh, Jesus.
D1, yeah, there's a lot of divisions.
Okay.
D1 single A is, they're all based on enrollment. So D1 single A is all the schools that have 15,000, I believe, and up students enrolled. So we competed in the D1 double A division, which is the second
one down. It's
second
like
one
one double
down.
A.
Yeah, exactly.
Like one double A in
yes.
football, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, so you're the second division down.
Yeah.
And it's based on school. So who did you play?
There were a lot of different teams.
Who were some of the teams that?
Yeah, we went
Anthony, I'll tell you what. Let's get Anthony in here. Anthony, who were some of the teams you guys?
Yeah,
played
so
against?
we played the first day. We played Texas Tech, Drexel, and Duke, and beat all 3 of them. Day 2, we played Sacramento State and Stanford, and then on the third day in the tournament, we played Nebraska, Georgia Tech,
West Virginia.
West Virginia. That's right, and then
I
we
got
beat
the list here. I just pulled it up
Sacramento
here.
State again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went 9-0, right?
Yeah.
So did you guys see this coming? I mean, did you have this awesome season where you were, 20-0 and you were killing everybody,
Absolutely
or what
not.
happened?
Absolutely not. During the regular season, we played a lot of the D1 single A teams, which were the division above us. So
Like Ohio State, the bigger school.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
those games didn't always turn out the way we wanted to, but it did definitely help prepare us for the national championship.
Okay.
Yeah, and a fun fact for you: before nationals, we were 0-6, I think, on third sets. Right, so you play 2 out of 3, and the third set is the deciding set. And before nationals, I think we were 0-6, and in nationals we went 4-0 in third sets. So
What the heck happened?
That was a big deal.
How'd you pull that off? I mean, did the light switch just go on? And you guys all.
I don't know. This is something we've been preparing for all year. We've always had the mindset that we were going to win our division at the national championship. So when it came time to do it, we would just really focus towards that.
All right.
Well, and actually, we also played UK the week before nationals in a best-of-5 match, and they played in single A and finished third. So they performed really, really well at nationals too. and that match went to 5, and we had 2 opportunities to close and didn't. So I think that also kind of flipped a switch on us, and we were like, okay, we go to nationals, we are not going to do that. We aren't going to close everything.
All right.
Yeah.
Anthony, did you play in high school? Did you play volleyball in high school, or how
Yes.
did you get into this?
Yeah, I played in high school with my high school team, and then I also played club volleyball, like kind of like AAU, like a lot of the guys on the team also did.
Okay, so you all played volleyball in high school?
Yes.
And did you all go to schools that had volleyball teams, or did you just play because your buddies were doing it and you went and played pickup games in the sandlot?
Nah, I think we all went to schools that actually had volleyball offered at their schools.
And you're from where? Where'd y'all go to school?
I'm from Louisville.
Louisville?
Yeah, also from Louisville. 6 of us went to St. X in Louisville.
Okay, gotcha.
And I'm from the Chicagoland area.
Okay. How'd you get to Louisville?
I was on a college road trip, and my grandma lives in St. Matthews. So
Gotcha.
one night I stayed the night at her place, checked out the campus in the morning. I loved it.
Huh? Well, I'm glad you did. That was Tom, by the way. Again, we're talking with 3 guys that were on the club volleyball team, the men's club volleyball team at the University of Louisville, Sam Bibelhauser, Anthony Campisano, and Tom Sarver, who won the national championship in St. Louis. How many teams were in your division for the national
48.
championship?
48 teams, yeah.
So you had to beat out 48 other schools to win this thing. So,
Yep.
so what'd they give you? Did everybody get an individual trophy, a big medal,
Yeah,
or just a pat on the back and say congratulations?
We all got medals, and we got a golden volleyball and a trophy, I think. That was it.
And I should mention this. I probably should have mentioned this at the top. According to the folks over at the U of L Athletics, well, it's actually not U of L Athletics. It's Student Affairs that oversee the club sports, all the various club sports at U of L. This is the first club sport championship that U of L has ever won on a national level.
Wow.
You know that? You guys didn't know that, did you?
I did not know that.
So you're the first, man. Congratulations. So you beat the hockey team, the lacrosse team, the wrestling team, all those club teams. They've never won a national championship. You guys have.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And as I'm sitting here, I should mention that Tom's the only one that's tall. What's the deal with that? You guys are my size.
We do have a very small team compared to others.
Hey, I can jump.
So what was it like in St. Louis? Somebody describe the atmosphere and what happened during the tournament and after you won.
I'll let you guys take this one.
Go ahead.
So it's really the atmosphere is really laid back for the most part. It's a lot of college kids, so it's a fun week definitely, and it's really a great opportunity to for kids, or I guess college kids, to get to do something they still love and enjoy, and is really just a great week.
I think that's the beauty of club sports, isn't it? At U of L, you're not good enough to be NCAA athletes, but the club sports, you can still keep doing what you like to do, right?
I actually want to half correct you there.
Okay.
Men's club volleyball is kind of a different setting than almost all other club sports, because there's not a lot of collegiate opportunities for men's volleyball.
Okay.
That's true.
So there is D1, D2, D3 talent in the club game. We actually have a freshman who, to be honest with you, didn't see the court a lot on our team, who is going to set for Cumberland next year for their real team. And we had a guy last year, Nolan Mattingly, who was asked to be here and couldn't make it today. He, last year when we finished 3rd, was approached and offered a fair amount of money to play his senior year somewhere else for a collegiate team. So in men's club volleyball,
Fair amount
there's
of money.
a lot
Wait a
of
minute, intuition. Let's make
Intuition.
sure about
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Not an NCAA violation. Not offered a free car
Sorry.
or anything like that. Okay.
No.
All right.
Just tuition. Just
to be
part,
clear.
part
Okay.
of tuition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They wanted to sign him.
Okay, well, that's
so
fair. That's fair.
It's men's club volleyball is a little bit of a different scene, and the cool part about nationals is that stage that is just massive with so many teams from all over the place. We played teams out of California, Sacramento, and Stanford, and that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And 64 courts is also like that's a lot of courts, and you walk around, you look everywhere, and there's volleyball everywhere.
As far as your eye can see, it's pretty much volleyball.
I guess I ought to ask you guys too. The real question is, what are your majors, and what year are you in school? Tom, let's start.
I'm a computer engineering, computer science major at the Speed School.
Okay, Anthony.
I'm a sports administration major.
Okay,
And I'm electrical engineering. I'm my
so
4th year out of 5th at Speed.
so 2 you guys in engineering and a SPAD major. And just again, you found your way here through your aunt, wasn't it? Or
My grandma, yeah.
Your grandmother lives here. You guys are local. Why'd you come to U of L? Why'd you decide to come here?
Well, I was in love with the engineering program. I got to talk with some of the representatives when I came to visit on campus, and the co-op program was really what brought me here.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up diehard U of L fan, so I already loved the school to begin with, and it was close to home. That was something I was looking for.
Okay. Sam?
Yeah, and for me, it was a lot the co-op program. I mean, I looked at the engineering schools in Kentucky because I wanted to stay kind of near home, and I decided that U of L was the best engineering program for me.
Okay. Last question. What was the reaction of all of you guys after you won the championship?
I just kept repeating, we did it. I couldn't stop saying that. I said that to everyone on the team. I just kept repeating that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just at a loss for words. Like, I didn't know how to react, what to do, what was going on. It was an incredible feeling.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Sam?
it was the most surreal feeling I've had in my life. And it just was, for a while, just in shock. And at one point, Anthony, like, squeezed my shoulders, and he said, "You started it," and I just lost myself at that point.
Yeah.
Like tears. I couldn't focus anymore. It was amazing.
So what are you going to do for non-core next year? You got to go win another national
Yeah,
championship, right?
that's the goal.
Got to start the trend.
Yeah.
Oh, graduate 5 seniors this year, so 5 starting seniors too. So
Going to have a young team next year.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the
I
plan.
got you. All right. Well, again, the U of L men's club volleyball team, national champs in St. Louis. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Source of pride for all of you and for the University of Louisville. You may stereotype women who are on probation or parole. You'd say they committed a crime, so they're more likely to use drugs for non-medical purposes, right? Well, that may or may not be true, and it's certainly not the whole story. Martin Hall is a researcher and associate professor in the Kent School of Social Work, and he has been studying this issue. Martin, good to see you. All right, you've done some
Thank you,
work
Mark.
on
Happy to be here.
drug use, non-medical drug use by women who are on probation and parole. Why don't you talk a little bit about that study?
Yeah. So we had a sample of women, 406 women who were in the community, so under community supervision in Louisville, so on probation or parole. And we were interested to know what non-medical use of prescription drugs look like among this population of women. There's reason to think that they're particularly vulnerable for this because we know that women in the justice system are likely to have been victimized. We know they often have a history of substance use. There's a number of factors that would make them more likely to engage in the non-medical use of prescription drugs, but there weren't previous studies that looked at this, so we did.
All right. Well, what'd you find?
We found that rates were pretty high. About a quarter of the women reported that they had misused a non-medical prescription drug in the past year, which is about 4 times the national rate that you'd see among women. So the prevalence was pretty high. And we also found that even when we controlled for other factors, so age and other substance use history, the women who reported post-traumatic stress disorder were about twice as likely to have misused a non-medical or misused a prescription drug in the past year. So it looks like current trauma symptoms really increase the odds that women would misuse these drugs.
So when you say post-traumatic stress in women who have been in jail or incarcerated and now are out in the community, what are you talking about? What kind of post-traumatic stress are we talking about here?
Yeah, so we often think about post-traumatic stress in the context of the military, people who come back from wars. Well, individuals in the community have the same kinds of symptoms. When people are victimized or abused or attacked, you manifest trauma symptoms like hypervigilance, feeling anxious, problems with sleeping, just sort of a constant state of worry and threat, even when there's no actual threat. So a lot of women who are involved in the criminal justice system have endured a lot of lifetime events. Many of them have been abused even as children. That increases the likelihood that they might be abused subsequently as adulthood. And women who use substances are also more likely to have a victimization experience. So this sort of accumulated course of victimization results in traumatic symptoms. And so we think that a lot of the women who may illicitly use prescription drugs probably do so to treat some of those symptoms. And it's not just the opioids, but also the anxiety drugs that a lot of people are prescribed nowadays. The women in this study had higher rates of those symptoms. So even though it's illicit use of these drugs, the women actually have the same symptoms for which these drugs would be prescribed.
Do they have to give a drug test while they're on probation and parole? I
They
assume
do.
they do.
They do.
And do the prescription drugs show up if they don't have a...
They do, and
prescription
so yeah, they will show up. So that would trigger a violation for these women.
What's the bigger picture, you think, here for society? If we have these women out there that have been in jail, they're out, we're trying to get them back into society in a comfortable way, in a good way, and yet they're using these pharmaceuticals in a non-medical way.
Yeah, I think the first piece is that we have to do better to help people get services that they need. This goes beyond just the women in the particular study. There are societal consequences for not giving people the health care that they need. This ultimately is going to be an economic burden that the state and that the country shares, because untreated prescription drug abuse is going to be associated with increased likelihood of overdose. That's expensive. Going back into jail and prison, that's expensive. So we think there's a cost benefit to actually help people get the services that they need right out of jail or prison. So that's really a missing piece right now. And then there's one other thing that I'd add to that. We also, in the paper that we wrote, we advocated for trauma-informed correctional care. And the idea here is that individuals in criminal justice would sort of take trauma experiences into consideration. There's a lot of common practices in criminal justice that really aren't great for people who have trauma. So if you think about a search or a pat-down, if somebody has a trauma history, that could potentially be re-traumatizing. So there
Could be a trigger.
There may be common experiences in criminal justice that could increase the risk of these women for illicit use of these drugs.
So get them out. I mean, but we've known this for a bazillion years, that if you get treatment and you can treat these folks beforehand, before they get in, your chances are you're going to cut down the likelihood that they're going to go back to prison, right? I mean, we've known that for a long time. It's just, is it a money issue, or is it in your view, is it an issue of we just don't have the guts to go ahead and suck it up and put the money in up front in hopes that it will give the return down the road?
I think it's probably both. I think, in this state, we're seeing that a lot of these types of services are being taxed in a way that we haven't seen in the past, but I also think it's an issue of political will. And then there's, I think there's not a full appreciation for the lives that women like this have lived, that there's really a long history of circumstances that have led to criminal behavior in adulthood. So I think a fuller picture of the life experiences of women like this would help us have a little more compassion and do better for people who are this vulnerable.
Gotcha. All right. Martin Hall, keep doing the good work, and hopefully you'll have the results of that, the further results of that study here in a few months, right?
Be happy to come back and talk about it.
We all know that the economy is shifting. More technology and science jobs and using metrics and data to drive sales and decision-making in the marketplace, right? Well, how has the University of Louisville helped in getting behind teachers and their students and getting them ready for the 21st century workforce? Olfa Nasraoui is the endowed chair of e-commerce and a professor in the Speed School of Engineering, while Stephanie Philipp is an instructor in the College of Education. And they're here to talk about an exciting thing we've got going on with JCPS and also at the Speed School of Engineering. So welcome, ladies. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
All right. Well, let's talk with you, Olfa. What is big data? When we say the words big data, what the heck does that mean?
So as we know, with the increased power and the decreased cost of storage and computing hardware, companies and organizations are now able to store more and more of data and anything that is done by customers online, anything that's published and so on. So all of that digital information is now being used as a source for knowledge discovery. So trying to build models for predictions, for example, making predictions about disease, making diagnosis automated and faster, making business more efficient, being able to guess what people like and they don't like.
This
and
goes to
so
the whole
on.
Facebook thing. Maybe we'll have to ask you about that here in a minute, but go ahead.
So that's
what big data is.
Yeah. So in a way, it's being used to make processes more efficient, right? And it's good for profit, but also for doing good, for human welfare.
And what do you teach at the University of Louisville that is helping the students at UofL perhaps go into these fields where they're helping companies with their big data and storage and the use of that data?
Yes. So I'm a computer science professor. So computer science is one of those disciplines that is at the foundation of machine learning and big data techniques. And I teach a course on web mining. So it's web mining for information retrieval and e-commerce. And it's actually all about big data, but it's something that we've been teaching for I've been teaching for over 20 years.
Okay.
Since the beginning of this, but it's something that, it's a course that is renewed every year.
And I'm assuming it's really blossomed in recent years with more and more students taking this as
Yes.
we get more and more into technology and this data, right?
Yeah, so students are more interested in it. The businesses are more interested in this field, so we see more and more in terms of internships, and pretty much all my students go into this area. So.
All right, that's Olfa Nasraoui. She's with the Speed School of Engineering at the University of Louisville. And we're also with Stephanie Philipp, who works at the College of Education. So how do you fit into all this? Talk about big data and teaching and JCPS. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, our teachers are interested in helping their students be successful in these new jobs that are going to be created, jobs we don't even know what they're going to be in 5 or 10 years. So, and a lot of times they don't need to train students specifically, but just how to think. That idea of computational thinking, of how to analyze data and think about steps, think of like algorithms, think about ways to automate these ideas because there's a lot of information out there, and they want, employers want to be able to use it for all kinds of things. So we need to think, in terms of that. Even if you're not going to be a computer scientist, people think in terms of that to use the everyday technology that you have. So teachers want to help their students do that, and they are working with their students to do all kinds of computing science lessons and a whole curriculum on it.
And you two and the University of Louisville have gotten a big grant to go ahead and start helping high school teachers teach these skills. So why don't you talk about that? Both of you, go ahead and talk about it.
So what we're going to do this year, starting with this summer, is we're going to be hosting 10 teachers, and these teachers will be working together in pairs as a cohort, and each pair of teachers will be working in a research lab along with one of the faculty mentors who specializes in research that's related to big data.
UofL faculty member.
Yes, UofL.
So folks in computer engineering and computer
so
science
Speed
at
School
UofL.
So computer science and also electrical engineering. And they'll be also working with an education professor.
Right, and so,
Professor
on a
Stephanie
weekly
Phillips.
basis, we'll also work with them to translate what they're doing in their research project, which is an authentic, research experience they're going to have. We're going to work with translating that into what that might look like in the classroom. And it may not be a direct translation, because this is going to be high-level computer science they're doing, but just the idea of what goes into engineering research. That's a new concept for a lot of our teachers. They don't have experience in that because they're teachers. They're not engineers or
Right.
computer scientists. So helping them translate that into curriculum, into assessments, into lessons. So we'll be working with them on that so they can take something back to the classroom and make a meaningful contribution to the research projects that they're working on in the Speed School.
And what do you envision these 10 teachers that they teach in high school? What is it? Biology? Is it computer science? What is it?
We've got teachers that teach a variety of classes. So we've got math teachers, we've got computer science teachers, cyber engineering. We've got some of the academies of Louisville. They have a cyber engineering program. We've got math teachers. We actually do have 2 middle school teachers from Carroll County who are working with their students on some pretty high level. They've taught themselves how to code. This is student generated. We want to learn this, and the teachers are learning right along with them. So they want to learn even more about how to help their students. And that, to an education person, is just music, because that's how students really learn, is when it's student generated. I want to learn this, so they'll really learn something, and it's not something imposed on them.
And you also both talked about the ethics of big data and what's coming down the pike in terms of technology and computational learning. What is that? What are the problems or potential problems that perhaps you're going to relay to these teachers, I assume?
Absolutely.
To say,
Yeah.
warn these kids that it may not be used for all good here. And I'm citing the Facebook example of the data getting out on all the personal data on a lot of folks.
So first of all the projects that we are offering for the teachers are projects that have potential human impact. So the human impact may range from, robots that help assist humans, such as the elderly or people who are sick, people who whether in their homes and so on, and so conversational robots, also algorithms that help, deep learning algorithms that can predict cancer diagnosis, smart city, big data for traffic management, and so on. So these are projects that have a potential human impact. So we're not thinking
That's
about
the good stuff.
So we're not thinking
But
about
don't
business
you have to-
profits.
you also have to
Yes,
teach
and
the other
also
side, though, right?
So and then we have two projects that are specifically about the ethics of big data, right? And actually, you're looking at it from a scientific perspective. So we, the scientists who have created these algorithms, right? Just like we create the algorithms, we have, the responsibility to also study the ethics and the risks and how to fix them using the scientific method. And so some of this, one of the projects is going to be looking at fair machine learning. So how to build transparent algorithms that can give you an explanation when they make a prediction instead of just giving you a raw prediction with, like a black box. And the other one is going to look at the interactive biases that emerge from machine learning algorithms working with humans. And one of the scandals that we hear about is the Facebook example, for example. And that some of that actually does come from these iterated biases.
Okay. Stephanie, you wanted to chime in there at some point. What were you gonna say?
The other part of this that we feel a real responsibility is to think about the culture in which computer science is in the workplace. And a lot of this has been in the press recently that there's not very many women, there's not very many people from other underrepresented groups in computer science. And why is that? There's nothing inherently about computer science that would shut these people out. But there's something happening in the culture that is not welcoming. So we feel, as two women who are not real well represented in that area, and we've actually got over half of our teachers are going to be female, to think about that culture and why that might not be welcoming to certain groups of people. We'll be looking at that very carefully and having our teachers look at that too.
That's great. Well, this is a great training program for 10 teachers who are going to get the opportunity this summer, and I think 10 more.
10 more, and 10 more after that, so 30 altogether. So that's really about 1,000 students every summer that will be, impacted through their teachers.
By the University of Louisville and the great grant that you two got. Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks.
We'll be talking to you a little bit more later on this month when we make the official announcement, I suppose, of this. So I appreciate you both being on the show. Thanks for listening to UofL Today with Mark Hebert, and go Cards!